Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and today we're going to be talking about the Accelerated Dragon. The Accelerated Dragon is not one of the most popular openings. People know and love the Classical Dragon. But when it comes down to the Accelerated Dragon, meh. Some people like it, some people don't. Truth is, it's a little bit complex to learn. So, today, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how we should think when it comes down to, the Accelerated Dragon and all its important subtleties. So, first of all, what are some of the most valuable ideas that come with the dragon? Now, I got to tell you a very interesting story about the dragon, and the story is that I used to play it when I was very young. Now, as I grew up, essentially, it just became sometimes we could say more and more complex opening for me to handle. But I've always enjoyed it. I've always liked the kind of positions that it leads to. And truth be told, it is an amazing system if you know what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about some of the major subtleties, as one of the grandmasters has actually presented it in his most recent training package on how to play the dragon, which you can find with a great discount in the link below this video. Now we're going to start with a game that was actually played by okay, here we go. 1 second. This is a game, I think it was, Valeri Gusinov, and this shows kind of the major idea that Black has within the opening. This was played between Valeri Gusinov and Evgeny Naya in 2008 Moscow Aeroflot Open. Great game. Wonderful game. Brilliant example on how that opening is supposed to be approached. Gusinov was playing with Black, and then after e4, c5, knight f3, he did g6. Now, there are different ways on how you can go with the Accelerated Dragon. There is a way to play knight to the c6. There is a way to play g6. And d6 usually leads up to the Classical Dragon. Now, what is it all about? It is all about allowing white to sort of, or kind of, take command in the center, and then getting the chance to confront or counter his middle pretty quickly. Is it easy? No. But it's important, and it's definitely supposed to happen as we go. When the move of c6 to d does take place, essentially white can pick on different moves. Now, in this particular case, you played queen next to the d4, and then after knight f6, e5. Now, this sounds like a very ambitious approach. Now, I will almost love it, entirely, because, why not? This is like a very ambitious, very good-looking, and even pretty, useful way to go. So it does look good in that aspect. The problem is that it goes way too early, and one of the major goals of Black in this opening is allowing white to step up quickly and counterattacking him pretty fast. It's that simple and that nice. It takes a little bit of time, but then we're just going to be very successful as the game progresses. It is nice and easy, as they call it. Nice and easy. So what does Black do now? First thing, drive the white queen away. It's really important to do that. Remember that every opening is about the center. So even in the seemingly bad openings, which don't look like they're they're helping us to fight for the center, you can still get an incredibly valuable opportunities to go against the opponent's center, which is what we get to see happening at this very moment in time. It's a beautiful move, and it's solid. In this variation, this version, essentially he's got more to worry. He just moves the queen out of the a4. And then Black plays knight d5. The provocation is a very interesting approach that masters tend to use when it comes down to the center play. They let the opponent to advance it quickly, and then they attack it, thereby making the most relevant area of the board to become a disadvantage, like a problem for the opponent. So right now, instead of actually getting it perfect as white would love to do, he gets a problem. The center is no longer going to be all that good at all. That's a great version to play. So how do we deal with that? Like what happens next? Okay, after the move of knight of the d5 definitely happened. White played with queen e4, knight c7, knight c3, bishop to the g7, and bishop to f4. So there goes the question. Okay, so as white develops just like that, what is black supposed to do at this moment? So he's all right. Most of his pieces, he's actually quite okay. He sets up his pieces well, and I think that it's good. But then the question is, okay, what to do next? So I'd like you to take a moment, and try to figure out black's best variation. Where can he challenge white, or in what way can he make his game strong? Try to provide your own thought and a suggestion as to where black must go. Looks like we got a good shot versus his center. There's no doubt about that. I love the black shot against the center. I gotta say, though, that despite all that, I don't feel like it's enough. I don't feel like we're really ready to do that much, especially not against the center. So black has to find some way to do it. Any way to go that way, to deliver his pressure, his challenges. Now, how do we do it? Is the big question that you got to answer. Can you show the queen c4 variation? Sure. I mean, queen c4, you're probably talking about, I'm not sure if we're talking about that line. It's the same. I mean, I don't see what's the difference. Let me see. I mean, just black can just attack that queen with knight b7. I've not seen queen to the c4. If we're talking about queen c4 earlier, does it really work? I mean, we're just going to challenge the queen. It's not even theoretical so much. We're just this queen becomes more vulnerable as he goes. So, yeah, it's not interesting, as one of you said, just for sure. So what white wanted is just bishop to f4. He wanted to maintain some control, keep his queen good. And so what black has to do is to figure out a good move. Now, e6 was suggested by one of you. Not so much. See, white can just push up with a long side castle, and I think he's going to feel pretty good about it. No, that doesn't work. If we're going to do something, it's got to be better. And it's got to be more consistent and more powerful than e6. Let's see if anybody has a better suggestion on what black can make. Keep in mind, white is still behind in development, despite his seemingly good strength around the middle. He's still behind in development. Still a little off with both his pieces and some of his forces around. So what we need to do, we need to prove it. We need to challenge. Knight e6. Interesting. Problem is, white's just going to play bishop back there. So there's really not a whole lot going that way. With knight e6, bishop back, stable and safe. So it doesn't work. Nope. It's interesting, but not good. Not good. Anything else? Yeah. So, of course. Now, so we can do b6 or d5. Both moves look interesting, but they don't work. b6 is too slow. d5 will be taken with e takes d. Castles will be met by long side castling by white. You see, this is actually a pretty interesting idea. When you see that your opponent's attacking, most people think about what I would call the idea of shrinking. Shrinking means let's solidify, let's just keep everything around. And that's not bad. If you see a damage coming that way, you're against your position. You want to shrink, make your defense, and do it okay. However, on some occasions, like in this case, you might want to actually look for an active counterplay. And when that, or if that happens, I can guarantee you could be very, very successful. And this is what really happens within the couple of next moves. The first move that comes in, really, is just that. Now we can do other things too, but most important being is let's attack. Can't do it in the center, apparently. That doesn't seem to work. So what we can do is to focus on queenside. Pawn to b5 thereby just becomes a ruling move now. Not just a nice idea. I mean, it is a nice idea, but that's not just a nice idea. The reason why we're playing it is because it helps white to set up quick queenside counterplay. The big thing about the dragon, and one of the reasons why dragon is so exciting as opposed to many other openings, is because of the speed with which black basically gets to advance and like get ready with his pieces. It's really just that speed above all else. Every move causes or is ready to create or cause a problem. Let's see. In that move with the plan of b4, okay, of course we have this just big major difficulty that obviously white's got to experience. So what does white do? I don't know what he actually has to do, but after the move of opponent to the b5, he certainly has long side castles to make. Then we have b4 in this moment's position. Knight d5, knight takes to the d5, rook takes to the d5, and there comes the plan of bishop b7. It's a beautiful move because then what we realize is not only that the bishop is going to be really terrific, but also the fact that it will launch an attack versus white's queen, and it will get us to threaten him. Once white plays with bishop b5, we get to have e6 and in turn to attack the rook. Rook goes to d6, and then black castles short. And now you're going to say, okay, I don't like this for black. Valeri, what are you showing me? This is just get rid of that. I want to see some solid opening. Now, dig a little deeper. With black, you can never get an apparently great position. But what you can get are good counter chances. I'm going to say it again. What you can get are good counter chances, because when you get good counter chances, what is going to happen is you will counterplay. You will receive a successful counterplay versus white, and actually that's pretty much the most important thing that you need: an active, solid counterplay with the possibility to advance against the opponent, and that's very necessary. That's very valuable. So step by step, we are going to do this. It's very important and it's very successful. Let's see what comes next in the game. After the move of short castles, white obviously felt the kind of pressure that he was getting in. So he played king b1. Let's see if anybody can recommend me an active way on how black could carry on from here. Don't think about a perfect move. Just think about an active way how to do it. What is the most active version for black to manage his own play and to cause different weaknesses or different trouble over white's position? It's a great question. See, the way I see white being placed, I can see his terrible king and quite a few of his pieces just not that well placed. Most of them are quite misplaced. It's just a query of, okay, we got the control, we have the space, how to bring it, how to really deliver the challenge or the challenges against white's position. Anyone? A6, queen b6. Well, that's possible. Remember, the more active you are, the better it's going to get. For example, we can have now the chance to play with the move of queen a5. And it's a wonderful move because after continuing with the move of queen a5, so that we can have the attack going, we can have a2, and then we can have the rook to c8 or rook to b8 there. And so it's a wonderful idea. We have the setup. We can really arrange those couple of pieces out there against the opponent, and then we can have an extra tension just really being created. Everything is being well set, and this is beautiful. So step by step, it's a great idea on how black sets everything in motion. So, okay, now with the move of queen a5 next, white plays queen e2 here. This is a very important query. We got a question because the queen is very well placed against a2. We have the knight and everything. everything. But unfortunately, black isn't quite in condition to deliver that many threats or that many attacks. And that's a little sad. It's a little sad because we've got to be able to do it. So the real question really comes down to, how do we make it? It's like from here, from this specific position and everything, how do we turn this into something good or more valuable or more powerful as it goes? It's a great query. Very good question. See if anybody could give me a suggestion on where black's got to go. See, what is the best way on how we can actually grow our position and get certain possibilities? Well, there are many, but usually the most common way on how we do this is by regrouping. Now, what does regrouping basically mean? Well, in its very simplest form, regrouping means that you take up certain pieces, maybe one or two, and what you do is that you regroup them. You make them go to different places, apply different sort of pressure or threats, and you make your opponent worry with that kind of pressure and threats. It's really that simple. Now, no, it's not. I mean, it's not that simple, actually. But basically, that's what black does with the move of knight to the e7. It is a great candidate, if you think about it. It helps us to set up the idea of bishop to the d5 or others, if necessary. And it's a good start. We're not looking for anything special or big or whatever. We're just looking for a simple possibility to license the bishop towards a much better position, and we're going forward with the attack. That is a great idea. Step by step, remember that. That's what you would like to do. Just, improve your pieces and make them get better. So actually, that was great. So what happened in the game? Well, actually, right after that move, what really took place is, first of all, we're, of course, being able to attack very quickly in that type of position. But let's see what comes up. What comes next? Knight e7. White played rook takes d7. You're probably wondering, Valeri, this is crazy. I just lost it. You did. So what the hell did black just do? Why would he give away material? Because, and that's a big question. I got this question by a student of me today. He said, Valeri, I don't have the guts to do that. If I have to lose a pawn, I feel like the game is over. And he was right. It's scary. It scares me too, just to think about that. So how do I get the stomach to do something like that, to sort of sacrifice, basically? Just especially given that, it's something like this comes up. Well, how do I really get the stomach for it? First thing that I like to do, this is a very important thing actually I love to do, is I always go on asking myself one huge question. You may be wondering, what is that question? Yeah, there are a couple questions actually, but the most important question is, how do I get to have the initiative? How do I get to create, real challenges and real threats against my opponent's position? Now, if I can answer myself that question, the rest is easy. And so after rook takes the d7, black was just thinking about that. The threats are literally the fuel of the attack. If you think about how do I make more threats, think about, okay, if you don't have the threats, you lose your attack. So the threats give you the fuel of what I would call makes a real important attack successful. It's a big idea. It's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. It takes time. It's never that simple, but it's very valuable as an idea, just so that you can keep that in mind. The fuel of the attack is the pressure. It's the threats. So don't ever forget it. It's a big, big idea. Now, what happens next? Well, actually, white sort of lost it. He played bishop c4, bishop takes c4, queen takes to the c4, and knight d5. Now, the biggest thing happens. which is, okay, what is the biggest thing? The biggest thing is that we're just creating more and more problems over our opponent as the game progresses. And so he's got more and more things to worry about, more and more challenges to defend. Things like rook c8 can very easily happen, and just it's a pretty bad position. So this is not good. It's not good. So okay, now what can we try in that moment? So it's just, is it possible? I mean, of course. First thing, let's keep the attack going. We need that type of attack so we can have that shot ready. And so essentially after that move of knight of the d5, we're going to have the tactic go in, and it's working perfectly. So okay, what's going on next? After the move of knight of the d5 that took place, obviously white does not feel too good about it. He has to do rook to the d1. Now, would anybody tell me how does black carry on in this position? What should black try to do? Well, of course, there's lots of moves that we can do, but the real important thing that you would like to be thinking about is how do we bring the rooks into the play. It's a perfect activity. So the first thing that we do, of course, obviously, is about just a rook to the c8. Have that kind of idea. You see, you have the thread going, and then we have the possibility to hit him. Strong, simple. It is easy, and there's nothing that he can do. It's just great. That's how you do it. Step by step, most of the opponent's pieces are going down. They're moving away, and then there is nothing that he can do. So it's terrific. So always think about that. What do you need to do? You need to get more pieces. So let's consider making even bigger threats at that point. So okay, after that move, what did white play? He actually played rook c8. That was move 20. Rook ac8. I'm sorry. Rook ac8. Rook 1 takes to the d5. Now you're probably wondering why. Well, the real reason is because there's no other way. If he plays the queen here, there would have been queen b5, possibly, or maybe actually in something else. How about rook d8 or rook queen a4 maybe? I'm not sure why he sacrificed it, but I think that it's a very troubled position. Maybe that rook can come down to a5 right now. I'm thinking about this. Rook a5 is an idea. If we do it, we have the a2 that will be very easily attacked or challenged in no time. So it's awesome. Well, it was very, very beautiful in how black did this position, just like how he followed it up with just the right sequence. And in the end of the day, white sort of gave up the exchange, and then shortly after that, he lost the game. But that's what this opening is all about. It gives you the chance to maybe even sacrifice a pawn or like get in a more passive position, but then quickly begin countering and attacking against the opponent's center. It's very well done. Now, some people are afraid. And what they're afraid about is the so-called Maroczy bind. I'd like to talk about that because it's a pretty scary thing. Okay, so I'm not going to say that it's not, because just a lot of people don't know how to do it, and so they feel a little confused. So I'm gonna try to give an explanation on how you can make it work. So hold on, here we go. That's the game. So this was a game that was played between Minasyan and Malakhov, and it was a pretty instructive game. Started with e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. White played d4 here, knight f6, d6, bishop g7, and short castle. So I mean, the development went for quite fine. I don't think there was any real big problem about it overall. So what comes next? Like, what's this all about? Well, I want you to take a look at the structure in case of the Maroczy. Now, the Maroczy bind is a tricky formation, and you may feel very confused in not knowing what to do or how to think about this. But in my opinion, what is so important over here is that you get to play the move of knight d7. So what we're actually doing is we're immediately bringing this directly towards the c5. We can have the challenge going against the e4, and it's going to be a terrific idea. So set up your pieces and bring them closer, one step at a time. It's perfect. The fact that white's got a pawn on the d4 does not mean more or less anything to him. So black just makes it, like stand out. It's a great position. Let's see what happened in the game next. Okay, so here we go. Then there was knight to the d5, knight to c5, b4, and then after the move of knight to the d7, there was this move here, and now next move was bishop to the b7. This one here, and so basically white played with rook f3. So how should black build his counterplay? That looks like a little bit of a challenge because he's definitely trying to feel quite good here. So how do we play it? Well, I want to say a couple of things. First, in such kind of position, we need very carefully to stabilize our position. And then the next thing that you would like to do is to regroup. When you think about regrouping, it helps you quite a bit, but then you would need to do that quickly. How do we regroup in this situation? Well, we can regroup by setting up knight back there, and then after the move of knight b8, rook h3, knight f6, black plays knight d7. Now, to you, it may sound completely useless. You'd say, okay, Valeri, why would I ever actually like to do something like that? This sounds like a bad idea. Well, that's true. However, the really important thing in this case is that after we play with the move of knight of the d7, with the support out there, we have everything under control. And then we get this nice challenge. Now we can have c4, he plays knight e3, we can do this move, at g4, h6. See, black wants to just stay solid. He doesn't want to make anything too good, too perfect. Just let's keep the position solid and simple for the most part right now. It's a great example. When do you use the Maroczy bind? Well, it depends, really. It depends. But, the good thing right now is that I don't think black's got to worry too much. Everything is more or less in place. White tries bishop d2. And now, what do you guys think black's got to do? I mean, this is an important position. He's like, he's got a little bit of a passive game. His pieces just look not so great. And the question is, he must find a way to advance. But how do we do that? This is a great question. Does anybody have a suggestion? Anyone? E6. I like that. I really do. You can play e6, you can play e5. I think both of them are actually going to work out fine. E6, though, definitely jumps out like a perfect move, because then we got the d5. The one goal that black has in this position is open. Truth be told, if you open up the center and you can realize all those necessary pieces and possibilities against the opponent, it's just going to be fantastic. We can have space and attacks and tactics or threats, everything just coming on pretty quickly. And that's where it really goes. With the move of pawn up to the e6, we got a beautiful tactical idea to arrange and bring our pieces in place. So, what happens then? Well, white plays queen e1, and then g5. See how black keeps his pawn structure? It's never really about finding something perfect here. It's about keeping it rather solid, and when the time comes right, breaking through. That's exactly what black is doing now. If white exchanges on g5, the black knight is going to come down to e5, and we want to take that moment to break, when there is a good necessity. Like h6 to the g. Now there's knight e5. This move is going to be amazing. Actually, if black sets up the knight there, step by step. The accelerated dragon is not one of these fast dragon type of ones. Most people who hear, I've got to play accelerated dragon, they think about this fast attack against the opponent's king, and it's not like that. And most times white castle's short, so there's no real attack. It's more about just developing your pieces harmoniously and taking up on some of the most valuable and yet critical squares towards the middle. If you can do that, the rest is going to be rather easy. and it's really, really good. So now when white plays knight c2, we get knight x to the g4. In fact, white already messed it up, so he sacrificed just so that he could make the attack. But one problem was always there. There were no threats. And so if there are no threats, the attack just completely fails. Black played exchange, takes. He exchanged for the rook, and now those 4 pawns as an avalanche turn out incredible. He can even take another one because the white bishop can't take due to the knight f3. So it was perfect. King g3, queen f6. There was rook takes to the c3, check on the f4, and a checkmate on h4. That was awesome. One of the most beautiful things about this game, about everything that really happened, was just how black really and gradually set everything, like the pieces and the development, up into play. It was not about quick attacks. It was about carrying on good piece coordination and the chance to build it until it becomes powerful. Now, once again, these examples are shown a lot better in Grandmaster Lemo's course on Accelerated Dragon. So I will encourage you all, once again, check it out. The link is right below this video, and for a few hours, you can have a look at his impressive way of explaining the dragon at 50% discount. It's a pretty good deal. So take a look. And here's one more example that was actually within Garry Kasparov's experience. In fact, this was a guy played against a computer. Kasparov played versus the computer named Fritz 2. Now, Fritz 2 is like in 1992, obviously, but it was quite some time ago, and the computers were not that strong. But still, it was a pretty interesting game, and I'd like to talk to you about what really happened here. So Fritz 2 is playing with white, and it started with e4, c5, knight f3 here, and actually then there was knight c3 there, and d4. Exchanges, bishop g7, bishop e3, and knight x to the c6. Now, the computer program was obviously not that well prepared within the opening and decided to break through and open up with e5. But truth be told, that sort of approach is really not as amazing, because so one of the things you get to see is that black could very quickly attack against the center, like against the e5, and then the rest of his pieces can come out quite easily as well. So after e5, there's knight g8, bishop d4, queen e5. And then a computer figured out that in case of f4 and maybe knight h6, it's not good. The bishop's going to be challenged by knight f5. The b file is going to be attacked by the black rook. And the rest of white's pieces feel like they have a little bit of an extra problem in setting up everything. So it's just black is a lot better at this point. So this is a very strong thing. So white decided, okay, why not? Let's just push through and search for an advantage. Now, once again, the only measure of any attack are the threats. It is the pressure that a player can bring. Problem of white is there is no threats. There's no pressure. There are moves and pawn pushes, yes, but there is no attack. There's no pressure within any of those. So what really becomes most interesting is that as he jumps in with that pawn push on the e6, black just plays with the move of knight f6, takes, and then you realize, yes, white looks like looking like he's got a great game. But if you think again, there's nothing. Not a chance for him to pose a trouble. And that is a great idea in this kind of position. It's a very interesting thing. So we see the big problem out there. So it's kind of amazing. So like one of the things that you want to be careful about. And of course, so what about what about him actually in this position? Can you do anything else? Well, let's take a look. After that move, yeah, well, I think it's just, after king takes f7, white played bishop c4 e5, which was obviously a bad thing. And, well, after this move, okay, d5, bishop b3, there's bishop to the e6. So it's a it's a bad position. So, got to tell you that. So, like, there's no way on how white there's anything that white can do. Now we've eliminated his possibilities at this position. He definitely has a big trouble or major difficulty. I don't know. I'm not sure if he can find anything that perfect here. There is the move of the queen to the d2 that obviously happened, but I mean, come on. It's just it's a terrible position. There's no way on how he can make anything good. So that was a wonderful position. It was greatly played, well set, and everything felt right. And so yeah, it's like right after that, upon that move, white plays bishop takes to the, and then there is this. It's great. Setup is good. Activity is wonderful. Most of white's pieces just don't have too much to do. There's not a whole lot that they can go with. And so yeah, that was a great idea. This is the simple way of playing it. No complications, nothing that he can do. He actually played with f4. And so after the move of pawn up to the f4, as this move happened, we actually have the move of bishop h6. And then what you get to realize is that suddenly, after the bishop comes up, I mean, this is not a good thing. It's a really bad position of by any means, and it just gets worse, like as the game progresses. Black is just much more prepared. He is so much better. So the game queen d4, knight g4 here. And then there is the move of knight takes to the e, f takes to the e, and so after the move of knight takes f takes to the e, then we got the move of rook takes to the e5, which is terrific. It's a perfect thing to do. Now white plays with the move of queen takes to the e5, rook e8 here, takes, then there's the move of queen c5 and queen e3. It cuts off the white king, which basically means that he can't go anywhere back. We have him tied down, so you definitely cannot escape. The e pawn is pretty strongly played, pretty strongly challenged. I mean, the knight out there. And wonderful. It's great, simple, and it is terrific. With that move in mind, essentially, right, you play c4, d takes to the c, c3, and then the e2 attacked and everything. White basically loses the game. So it's very, very strong. One of the really interesting parts of this game is just how easy it was for black to prove white wrong. Why? Because in this opening, a quick attack doesn't work. Black is too stable. He's too strong so that white can actually deliver a challenge in any major way. And because he can't do that, we're more than enough prepared and powerful in this position. So that's great. Now let's talk about another one which is fairly interesting. I have another game that I would very much like to show you. So 1 second. Now, this is a typical game. It was played between the grandmasters Negi Parmarian and Yuri Krivoruchko. That was a fantastic game, if you ask me. I like to tell you, I loved it a lot, and it has some of the best ideas that I think you can learn about this opening. Again, don't forget, if you want to learn most out of the Accelerated Dragon, take a look at the link below the video. It shows everything that you need to know about the opening by Grandmaster with Grandmaster commentary, and you're going to find it awesome. In any case, after e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, black plays g6, there's knight f6, short castles, and then pawn up to the d6. So that felt fine. There is a nice way to play it. We can think of the way to play bishop to the e6 shortly, and then we can focus our attention on building queenside play. That's a good, really steady idea of progressing on that side. White played short castles, bishop e6, f4, and rook c8. And so what do we see now? What we're seeing in this position is black's great way of advancing. He has the activity going on the queen side. He's got the challenge that we can think about on the area of the board. It takes a little time, but it is nice. It's beautiful. So what's coming now in this case, king h1, and then we have a6. Queen e1, b5. And so what we realize is that one by one, those kinds of moves are going to help black to expand. He's going to get extremely, like powerful command over the queen side. He's going to have the chance to plan ahead with a move of knight b4. And again, it's actually going from position of power. We are not advancing by being terrible. Black has a little more passive position. But see how he's actually set every single piece so it has the most value and the most power that it may have. Rook d1, then there is knight d7, and then the white plays with move f5 in the line. Then black plays bishop takes b4, pawn takes b4, and knight e5. So we realize that knight on the e5 and its incredible strength and power. We have the rook on the c8 in this case. That's perfectly well set on the file. And then we have challenges like the move of knight at f6. And then we can think about b4. And, that knight on e5 is, really good. It's cutting off most of the opponent's pieces. Bishop d4 and knight c. And this is the big move I want you to remember of that opening. What is it? It's an exchange. Very simple, but it exchanges the most important piece that white was keeping. So he was holding that bishop on the d4, so we can now exchange it. And then the great thing is that as we trade off that bishop, we're going to progress and move ahead on the queen. So this was a very valuable move that really sets everything in motion. What did black do? Change takes, a4, and I'd like you to think. What's black's best way to go right now? Take a moment and think about it. What should black do now? It's a great question if you ask me. Just think. Black's got a good position. Things look great. But what to do now? Remember, we need to continue standing strong. There's this fine line between being passive and being counterattacked. See, because if you are able to counterattack, you're good. But if you're passive, it's not. So you have to know about that fine line. And the fine line between counterattacking and standing passive really hangs to one idea: activity. You cannot let your opponent dominate you with better activity. Even if you're passive at the moment, you got to make sure that your pieces at least have a good prospect, good perspective of becoming more powerful. Just what happens with the move of knight c5 right now. Capture, take. White takes, then there is knight to the f6 that comes in this position. And then we can realize the real danger, because then we are not only setting up the knight to attack e4, but we're also realizing moves like queen to b6, and then we can see moves like knight g4, maybe queen e3 or knight e3, whatever we do. It's very interesting how the pieces are moving in place. Most of White's own pieces don't seem to have that value, and he's definitely feeling behind. Bishop c4, queen b6, and you see, so that's what happens out there. So now black just keeps on getting active. Get more active. Move after move after move after move. You may start with a slow or a backward kind of position, but as the game progresses, it is necessary that you become as active as you can. So there we go. Now White plays the only thing he could, queen e2. So what would you guys do now? Think about this position. We've got active position. We're keeping the pressure. Everything's right. But, again, we need a continuation. What should black do now? Anyone? How should black continue his pressure now? Rook takes c. No, doesn't work. White would take it and we lose. No, something else. Something else. Think about that. What should black do now? I'm going to give you a hint. Coordinate. That's right. Black must coordinate his pieces. Getting them together is one thing. Getting them to work together is another. So what we see is a very interesting possibility that black is actually setting up to play. And you may be wondering, okay, what is it? Well, the really interesting possibility here was just that move of rook to the b8 that black plays, because then you can see that we have a nice challenge. And then, of course, after continuing with that move, we have a nice shot. It's a pretty good tactical variation. The like the challenge and the threats look pretty devastating, if you ask me that way. I can tell you. See, it's not just nice. It is efficient. It's very, very important. The whole concept, the whole idea lies within the way of just like on how you can really arrange or manage your pieces. You have to get them together. When you get them together, when you can make the real threats, you can make a lot of very powerful possibilities. And then we can find out that there is knight x to the c4. There is the hit against the opponent's position down there. And why not? Let's make this work. Step by step, arrange the tactics. It's good. Well, with that in mind, white played with the move of knight to the knight directly on the b5. And so with that move in mind, when you actually push that knight up there, so then black plays knight x to the b, bishop takes the d, and rook c8. Once again, black's pieces get incredibly well connected and usefully placed. And then we have not just the pressure instantly against the b, we also have the c file that's totally under black's control, and things are good. Would I say that they're perfect? I know, but it's an excellent way to go. So here we go. There, then we have this rook c5, rook c8, f6. As the position gets there, we're more stable. Everything is solid. White stands behind. It is beautiful to realize that type of position. And so actually after that move, then, okay, here we go, rook b8, then there's like a3, rook a1, queen to c7. Here, and then queen b6, knight c6, and knight b4. See how black is arranging or rearranging his pieces so that he can constantly maintain that kind of pressure over white, with the e4 being challenged and with the majority of the white pieces being quite backward out there. That is how it's supposed to be done. And now, of course, there's queen b7, g takes f, takes, d5, check again, queen e5, and then there's d4. The king goes away, but then black just keeps on going. He moves his queen to e2, the rook goes to the d8, and then we have d2, check, knight e3, and knight takes d1. That queen is now going to go down right down to e5, so in case he exchanges, we can take it back. We got knight takes to the b2, which is a brilliant idea. We have the pawn to strengthen and push up with, and we have most of white's pieces completely terrible. So that's how it's supposed to be done. Beautiful, effective, and dangerous. White's just losing it. So those are some of the most important things that I would like to tell you about. I hope that you have fun playing this opening. I really do. And then again, don't forget to check the link below this video, which is really going to give you 50% discount of a brilliant course, many hours of training on the Accelerated Dragon by Grandmaster Damian Lemos. I posted on the chat, so check it. It's only available for a few hours, and definitely don't forget, it's all about activity. That's all you want to do in this opening. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Speak to you soon.